Susan Follas. I conduct this group called Ebytown Brass. We rehearse here every Tuesday night, and it's just a group of community musicians who are quite skilled in brass instrument playing, and we just love to play. So thank you very much for coming out to hear us. I would like to acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Atawadaran people who have lived here and cared for this land for thousands of years, and we are grateful for the opportunity to live and work and make music on this land. We understand that a land acknowledgement such as this is a first step on the road to reconciliation. It is a journey that we take together with humility and respect. Welcome to our Ebytown concert. It's called Chills, Thrills, and Trills. Hopefully you'll get all three tonight. We are delighted to play for you and help raise some money for the Knox Refugee Fund. Enjoy our show. Johann Sebastian Bach was a Baroque organist and a composer. He wrote many, many things. He was a church musician. He actually wrote 6 concertos. They're called concerto grossos, which were for a variety of instruments. The one we are going to be playing is the Concerto No.2, Movement 2, and it featured 4 select instruments: oboe, violin, trumpet, and what was the other one? Trumpet. Well, there's 4 of them. Here we've got 11 people, and those parts, solo parts, go through the group, and mostly in the upper, the trumpets, but you'll hear through the trombones and the horns. Interesting about these concertos, these great works were probably never performed after they were dedicated to the Margrave of Brandenburg in 1721. Bach was looking for a new job, and he was thinking that maybe if he gave these nice concertos to the Margrave, he might get a job there. Well, sadly, the works were not performed because his court had a very bad orchestra. They weren't very skilled. They couldn't handle it. It was pretty difficult music. And they didn't have the resources to hire talented musicians. So after many years, these concertos just sat in his library, and they ended up in the library in Prussia, which at that time was the Royal Library of Prussia. But unfortunately, well, maybe actually this is what happened. They nearly got lost in World War II because they were being transported for safekeeping by train, and they were in the care of the librarian. Unfortunately, the train came under aerial bombardment, and the librarian escaped from the train to a nearby forest with all the scores hidden under his coat. As of 2023, that manuscript remains in the Berlin State Library. We will be performing the second movement. Here we go. If you've ever been to Newfoundland, put your hand up. Nobody? Yes, yes, yes. Isn't it a fun place? They know how to have fun. And their folk songs are full of fun, especially if you listen to the words. You can see what good times they have. And this is A Feller from Fortune, and this was arranged by Bill Thomas, and it's a David Marlatt edition. The next piece is written by Prokofieff. He was a Russian composer and pianist who came from Ukraine. He was born in Ukraine, but it was part of Russia later. In 1917, the Russian Revolution took place, and Prokofieff moved to the United States. I think it was just a visit, but his first major commission was this opera, The Love of Three Oranges. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. If you've ever seen it, it's probably even rarer, but it's kind of quirky. For instance, Prokofieff actually wrote the libretto and the music. It is a zesty love story about a sweet young prince cursed by a sour witch. He is forced to travel into distant lands in search of 3 special oranges. Each orange contains a princess. Sadly, the princesses in the first two oranges die of thirst when their oranges are opened up. So he gets smart. The third orange, he's careful. He has water nearby, and he opens up the third one and manages to save the princess by giving her some water. So, yeah, eventually they do get married after some events that happen. So it's kind of quirky, kind of fun. It's Prokofieff. And this march is probably the best-known music from the opera. The next piece is Magnum Mysterium, and it's written by Morton Lauridsen. He wrote it in 1994. It's been rewritten for, actually was written for an a cappella choir. Gorgeous, gorgeous music. And it has been rewritten for us for brass. It is full of rich melodic and harmonic colors. And it is emotive and it's deeply fulfilling. This arrangement for brass is a favorite of ours. And we hope you enjoy listening to it as much as we enjoy performing it for you. I'd like to call on Grant to come up and make a little announcement about how this concert works.
Good evening. Well, first, I'd like to give a big thank you to the Ebytown Brass for being here tonight, for your music, and for the support of our refugee project. And thank all of you for being here as well. I wanted to take just a couple of minutes here to introduce you to some of the people that you will be supporting when they finally get here. Our current ministry in refugee sponsorship actually began in April of 2017. That was the time, you might remember, that the Canadian government was fast-tracking Syrian refugees via the UN into Canada. And we met the Aldandels in the Toronto airport. They were looking extremely tired, fatigued after hours of travel, and probably wondering what the heck they were doing. Where were they going to wind up? If we fast forward to September 22, you get this picture. And the picture on the left, perhaps you can think back to the opening of this concert and replay our national anthem in your mind while you look at that. That's a citizenship court, pandemic style. And so the citizenship judge is come in on the laptop to the home, and that group of the family, and you have Safa, Taiba, Ahmed, the mom, Amira, and Marwa, are getting their Canadian citizenship at that time. The dad, Abdul, was still working on his English, and he now has his Canadian citizenship. And Izzeldin on the far right is the newest member. He was born here, so no problem there. Well, they are starting a new life. They're well into it, but refugees these days especially do not leave their old life behind entirely, especially with WhatsApp connection to family back in refugee situation in Lebanon. And so we have co-sponsored with this family to bring Abdul's younger brother, Allah. And there is his family. They're currently in Lebanon. And our application went in about not quite 2.5 years ago. And so we may be waiting another year. We don't know. You just don't know when the paperwork will get done and all the pieces will be put together. But we're hoping that it won't be too long before they arrive. I like when I look at that picture to see Bayan on the right there with that little smile. I'm looking forward to meeting her one day. I think she'll be an interesting girl that will probably be a teenager by the time she gets here, because that picture is a few years old. So that's the first group, the first family that your donations will support. We also have a connection to another refugee situation through our caretaker, Mulugeta, who became here as a refugee from Eritrea over a dozen years ago. And Eritrea, you might know, or it's not in the news, but it's been compared with North Korea as an authoritarian state. And young men are conscripted into the military and often are not allowed out of the military. They become a kind of labor force for the government. And so many of them flee when they get the chance, as Mulugeta did. And his brother-in-law also took that route several years ago, and that's Debisi on the left there. He is currently in Uganda, has been there for a few years. So we are partnering with Mulugeta as a co-sponsor to sponsor first Debisi to come here, and we're hoping he comes within the next few months. And once he is here, then the paperwork can go immediately forward. You don't have to wait years pushing it through. It can go immediately forward to bring his family over. So those are, that's the second group, the second family that you would be supporting. And again, thank you to you. Thank you to everybody on stage here. Thank you to Susan. And I invite you to sit back and enjoy the rest of the concert.
Did you know the brass players were a bunch of clowns? It's not hard to find them. Yeah, you're right. Yay. Our next piece is called Be a Clown, and it was featured in the movie The Pirate, if you've ever seen it. It was in 1948, and it was Gene Kelly and Judy Garland, and they were amazing to watch. You can get it on YouTube. Check it out. And it was written by Cole Porter. So lots of fun. Here's the clown. Be a clown. The next composer of A Little Russian Circus, and Anthony DiLorenzo, is a composer we just discovered maybe 10 years ago, and he's a film composer, and he's also a trumpet soloist. He really knows how to write for brass, really exciting brass, and not necessarily is written for a film, but when you listen to this music, there's going to be something running in your mind of what's going on. I'm going to tell you what each movement is about because it's very interesting. And here it takes place in early 19th century Russia. A small band of misfits travels the countryside, entertaining czars and czarinas in their royal palaces. As they continually dazzle their audiences with feats of splendor and amazing acrobatic routines, the performers become known all through Russia. With their reputation spreading so swiftly, it becomes time to expand the exhibition and head for the countryside to perform for the masses. Vast audiences of farmers, craftsmen, merchants, women, and children look forward to the circus, which lifts them out of their dreariness of their everyday lives. And each village takes part in the production by creating their own unique structure to provide for all of the performers and animals. With such an elaborate array of animals, wires, nets, poles, and fire, accidents are bound to happen. This is where the tale begins. The first movement is A Little Russian Circus is set in 4 movements. The Tent of Terror begins with a blast of trombones setting the stage as the lions, tigers, and bears, oh my, charge into the tent. The audience gasps and grips the edge of their seats, unsure if they should flee the apparent stampede. Soon to follow are elephants, rhinos, and of course, what circus would be complete without clowns? The audience's terror soon turns to amazement as they are shown a display the likes of which they have never seen. Next is Nikolai, the flying bear. He's considered to be the finest act in the circus. Of course, the bear doesn't really fly. He merely swings from trapeze to trapeze. If the audience could see a little better, they might notice that the bear is not quite a bear. Really, Nikolai is actually two little persons stuffed into a bear costume. Fortunately, the ruse is complete, and the audience is never the wiser. As Nikolai prepares for his triple leap, the crowd grits their teeth in anticipation. So the clown, this movement is sitting center stage. A small, lonely clown plays an accordion no bigger than 8 inches long. Covered in a soft bluish light, the clown plays a beautiful soaring melody, only to be interrupted by a bizarre cast of characters in all shapes, sizes, and colors. These strange clowns dance and tumble all about, riding unicycles, bicycles, tricycles, and all types of wildly painted wagons as their offbeat music plays. As the quirky clowns exit, the music fades out, and our small clown is left all alone and sighs to himself. Rings of Fire begins with an eruption of sound representing exploding balls of fire and light as massive rings placed all over the arena are set ablaze. As the lions and tigers reappear and begin to leap through the rings, the audience cheers madly. The tension builds to an extreme as one of the lions collides with a ring and knocks it over. The rest of the rings begin to topple like dominoes and set off a chain reaction as the fire spreads from pole to pole and starts to climb the walls of the tent. The room quickly becomes an inferno, and the audience, performers, and the animals flee the impending danger. Now for a different tack on clowns. This is called Send in the Clowns, and it was written by Stephen Sondheim in 1973. He wrote a musical called A Little Night Music, and it's a kind of a sad story, and it's a song of regret. And the term "send in the clowns" actually is a circus term, and it means use a diversion right now because something is going wrong on stage. Maybe something's on fire, or a tiger attacks his owner, or some disaster's happening. Bring in the clowns. Let's distract it. Let's give the audience something else to look at. And this is kind of like a relationship that has fallen apart but wants to get back together again. So it's kind of like sending the clowns because I don't know if this is going to work. So here we are, and our soloist tonight is Dave Manning on a flugelhorn. next piece is written by Henry Fillmore. He was born in 1881, died in 56. He was an American musician. He was a composer, he was a publisher, and a band leader. And he was best known for his many marches and circus marches. Fillmore was born in Cincinnati, Ohio, and in his youth, he mastered the piano, the guitar, the violin, the flute, and the slide trombone. He kept his trombone activities a secret at first, as his religious father was a composer of gospel songs, and his father thought that the trombone was an uncouth and sinful instrument. Henry's mother, though, secretly bought a used trombone for her son and obscured the truth from her husband. Eventually, he figured it out. Henry's compositions often featured the trombone with the characteristic glissandos, and I think I'm going to join them on this one. So our last piece only features the 3 trombones. It's called 76 trombones. You use your imagination. This was written for The Music Man, and it was written in, it was in 1957. They did the movie of it. And it uses the glissandos too, and it's a fantastic march. And this is our last one, so I'm sure you're going to sing it all night now.
la,